Man and the ocean. This relationship began long ago, but to this day, we know only a fraction about the life of this force of nature. Even in the 21st century, we still don't know what hides beneath the waves. Though legends and sailors' tales about mermaids have been told for centuries, we have never seen them among other living creatures. Welcome to the TopFacts channel, and now let's venture into a world where the line between myth and reality blurs. We'll show you stories of encounters with mermaids that will give you chills. A group of tourists in Bolivia were exploring Lake Titicaca when a mysterious creature emerged from the waves. Its head resembled a human's, and it swam in the waves as if it were at home. The head appeared above the water for only a few seconds, and the tourists could have mistaken the creature for a lake animal. But when they reviewed the footage, they confirmed that it was a humanoid creature swimming quickly in the strong surf, where even the most experienced swimmers would struggle. The way the figure dove into the waves also led them to suspect that it could have been a mermaid. Here's another sighting of a mermaid in Jamaica spotted by nature lovers. The paradox is that she was swimming against the current, and if you know anything about waves, you'll understand that's nearly impossible. Only a superhuman or a sea animal could do something like that. The ease with which the mysterious creature swam in the strong current led the witnesses to believe that they were observing a real mermaid. A group of people were fishing in the Wolf River in Wisconsin when a splash behind their boat caught their attention. The splash lasted only a second, but the creature surfaced and disappeared in the blink of an eye. At first, they thought their commotion had attracted a big fish, but when they rewatched the video, they realized that the creature had a round, dark head and a small body with sharp fins on its tail. Adding a little imagination, we assumed that they had disturbed a mermaid. First, let's look at cases involving mysterious sounds and images. The Bluestone National Park in West Virginia is a resort area. During a water tour, tourists spotted a mysterious figure near their boat. It appeared so quickly that they barely had time to decide if it was a fish or a female figure with a tail. Combining the impressions, what we get is a fish woman, a mermaid who was fantastically tumbling in the waves. A young YouTuber was exploring the ocean with his drone when luck suddenly smiled upon him. He spotted a dark creature swimming between the rocks. If you didn't notice, here's a closer view. This mysterious creature certainly has a streamlined body, but it could well have been a dolphin or another fish. As soon as the drone got closer, the creature sank deeper, turning into a blurry spot, and then it disappeared completely. This confused the operator, as he couldn't lower the drone any further without crashing it. So we don't know if this creature was a servant of the underwater King Triton or just a large fish searching for food. A drone camera flying over Dana Point in California captured dozens of mysterious sea creatures jumping out of the water. The operator tried to get the drone closer, but it could damage the camera. When the video surfaced online, many thought it was solid proof of mermaids. They came to this conclusion because the creatures seemed to have very slender bodies, and from above, they appeared humanoid. However, upon closer inspection, it becomes clear that this wasn't some magical school of mermaids, but rather a group of dolphins playing in the open sea. A cruise ship was sailing in the middle of the ocean at night, surrounded by darkness and mystery. Someone on board the ship was filming an eerie scene when they suddenly heard a piercing sound coming from the water. The sound was recorded, and now we can guess what its source might have been. The frightening person claimed that they encountered sirens, the mythical sea creature that sailors told legends of. But realists argue that dolphins might make such sounds when they communicate. I don't know what to believe, but stories of singing sirens have indeed existed in maritime legends for a long time. Australia, the country that is home to many unusual creatures. Seems like the perfect place for a mermaid story. A diver exploring Australia's waters was filming his experience with an underwater camera. He was swimming with a school of fish when he noticed something large behind him. Thinking it was a shark, the diver froze in place. But to his surprise, a creature resembling a real mermaid swam past him. Since then, the internet has debated the authenticity of this video. It seems the crew of the Animal Planet channel got their share of mermaid sightings during one of their underwater expeditions. They had already descended to a depth when they experienced an incredible moment. For a few seconds, a webbed hand touched the submarine's porthole from outside, followed by a humanoid silhouette and a head with large dark eyes. It seemed that this deep-sea mermaid was curious about the vessel, and while they were exploring the depths, she watched the ship. The crew managed to capture the episode on video, and later, when the channel's staff were invited to numerous interviews, they claimed the encounter was real. They looked into the face of a sentient creature from another realm. It's unknown what it was, maybe an amphibian or an alien, but all secrets are eventually revealed. And a few months later, it turned out that it was a publicity stunt, an attempt to attract viewers to the channel. The footage was faked. Are you disappointed? I must admit, I am. Now, let's suppose how we think sea fairies would look like. This photo was uploaded to social media, but the author and location of the shot is unknown. In the image, construction workers stand next to the body of a mermaid that was washed ashore. This mermaid doesn't resemble any that we've seen in movies or drawings. Her tail looked like a dragon's scaly back, and the fins were sharp. If you're trying to find any more information about this photo, I'll tell you right now that I've already searched and I couldn't find anything. It's quite possible that this photo was created using virtual design. Why? Likely to make people believe in the reality of mermaids' existences. In the early 19th century, a type of fair called freak shows gained popularity. In 1842, all of New York was abuzz with posters advertising an exhibition on Broadway that showcased a mysterious mermaid caught in the Pacific Ocean near Fiji. However, many ladies at the exhibit fainted from the horrific sight. Instead of a beautiful woman, they were shown a grotesque mummy resembling a monkey with a fish's tail. This bizarre project, under the hashtag Fiji Mermaid, was orchestrated by American showman Phineas Taylor Barnum. He wanted to convince the public that mythical creatures indeed swam in these oceans. Of course, years later, it was revealed that the Fiji Mermaid was an elaborate hoax. Barnum had rented the mummy from his friend, museum owner Moses Kimball. The mermaid specimen turned out to be a construction made from parts of various animals. The torso belonged to a monkey, while the tail, as I mentioned, was taken from a large fish. The result was a convincing and frightening mermaid zombie skeleton. And though everyone eventually learned it was a hoax, the masterful combination of materials and taxidermy, or the art of preserving animals, created a spectacle that briefly erased the line between myth and reality. On a beach in Puerto Rico, this creature was seen sitting on a rock, a mystical phenomenon that sharply differed from how we typically imagine mermaids. It was somewhat otherworldly. Her face didn't resemble a human's, and her thin, long hair had a blue tint. The strange mermaid was nodding her head back and forth, unaware that she was being filmed. And when she finally noticed the paparazzi, she immediately dove back into the sea. This video has plenty of skeptical critics. They say this creature looks too awkward, and it flopped into the water rather clumsily. But now it's up to you to decide whether it's fake or the real thing. Write me your thoughts in the comments. The crew of the Animal Planet channel was conducting research in Israel when they spotted a mermaid on a rock in the sea. The mythical creature was sitting, as in a fairy tale, on a high rock where the waves crashed. Just as the crew spotted the mermaid, she shook her head in disapproval and quickly dove into the water. It all happened so fast that witnesses didn't even have time to make a quality recording. When the footage was published, many claimed that they had encountered an ordinary sea lion. But if you look closely, the body seems too thin for a sea lion. Perhaps this mystery will never be solved. I'll just say that this mermaid dove into the water much more gracefully than the alien version. This video took the internet by storm. A creature resembling a mermaid was spotted sitting on a platform near a lake. The location of the incident was never revealed, so people remained puzzled. There was no place to get additional confirmation. The creature had a body that resembled a mermaid, but it differed drastically from how mermaids are depicted in movies and pictures. As soon as the creature realized it was being filmed, it quickly dove into the water, leaving us in confusion. The enormous, clumsy torso of a rubberboat with a fish's tail and a cow's face was unlikely to become the heroine of legends about sea beauties. In 2018, people rushed to the beach in southern Indonesia because a rumor had spread about a caught mermaid. When the creature was pulled from the water, it did indeed resemble a mermaid, with an especially beautiful tail. But again, this image didn't align with the fairy tale version. They captured a creature that didn't look like a seductress of sailors. However, the locals were still convinced it was a mermaid due to its unique physique. But after the video spread online, it turned out that this wasn't a siren, but a very rare sea mammal, a dugong or stellar sea cow. There are very few of them left, and this species is listed in the Red Book as endangered. That's why people didn't recognize it immediately, but rather believed in the myth. Vacationers at Rosarito Beach in Mexico were filming the waves when the camera suddenly captured a unique jump. A fairly large creature jumped out of the water. The whole scene lasted only a few seconds, so the family had to review the video many times to try to determine what was jumping. They firmly believed they had captured a real-life mermaid. But after the video was posted on TikTok, knowledgeable commenters insisted it wasn't a mermaid, but a dolphin jumping out of the waves to bask in the sun. A group of tourists were sailing on a lake in Majorca when they suddenly noticed a mysterious creature sitting on top of a rock. It was far away and too hard to discern any clear features. But after reviewing the video, the most eagle-eyed tourist was able to make out that it was indeed a mermaid sitting on the rock. When the video was uploaded to the internet, comments poured in, claiming it was an edited fake. But we know that there are no crocodiles or dolphins in Spanish lakes. So how did the creators and editors of the video come up with the idea to place a mermaid on the rocks? In 2013, a man was about to go diving in Croatia. He set up his camera to film his dive, but instead, the camera captured something jumping out of the water. Something eerily resembling a mermaid leaped out of the water and, performing a somersault in the air, splashed back down. The man reviewed the footage at different speeds and was convinced it was definitely not a fish. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe this is the very proof of existence of mermaids that we've been looking for. Now let's look at some anatomy and body parts. Since the 16th century, the city of Antwerp in Belgium has been engulfed in stories about fantastic sea creatures that occasionally swim up to the shore. Frightened sailors swore that they had seen this creature and claimed it was the closest thing to a mermaid. Of course, back then, they had to rely on oral testimony, so most people were inclined to believe what they heard instead of seeing. It wasn't until centuries later that scientists finally figured out that the mysterious fairy-like creature was actually a manta ray. They swam to the shore to hunt, and since they hadn't been observed there before, they were mistaken for mythical beings. Just look at their skeletons. You'll find the resemblance. Here's a more detailed look at the exhibits in the Copenhagen Museum. This mermaid skeleton is believed to belong to a young creature. The specimen has a complete skeleton with a long, bony tail, and the fin at the end is also preserved. According to the museum's archive, it arrived there in 1830 from Scotland. Legend has it that the mermaid died after a human child threw rocks at her. Her body was buried, but only to be exhibited in the museum years later. While we don't know where the skeleton came from, this story remains a local legend. We still don't know if mermaids are born or made, but one curious discovery in Florida might give us a clue. A boy was exploring narrow crevices on the beach out of curiosity, but what he found there made him shudder. He pulled out a tiny skeleton. The skull resembled a human's, but the rest of the body ended in a tail and fins. This skeleton might have belonged to a mermaid child, but the boy was probably too scared to make any conclusions. I think plenty of such strange trinkets can be found in souvenir shops before Halloween, but who knows? Maybe this one is real. Two amateur archaeologists started exploring a beach in the Turkish region of Karabogas, Sahili, hoping to find a unique trinket or old ceramics. To their surprise, they dug up a skeleton, initially assuming it belonged to a human. The pair decided to continue their excavation, but the more they dug, the stranger the skeleton became. It didn't resemble a human or a sea animal. After piecing it together, the researchers were horrified. The skull was surrounded by numerous spikes, and instead of legs, there was a long tail. Opinions on the video were also divided. Some believed that parts of the mermaid were fake, simply adding together skeletons of human bones and a giant fish. Well, if we haven't managed to clearly see living mermaids, why not look among the bodies of sea creatures washed ashore? Even giant whales often end up on the sand, so why not a lifeless mermaid there too? In this footage, the camera is almost hidden. People in protective gear are pulling something out of a body of water in Utah. The body they pulled out strongly resembles a mermaid's, and the green tail was clearly visible from afar. Before the mysterious cameraman could get closer, the workers in yellow suits placed the mermaid on a stretcher and disappeared behind the rocks. The video was later removed from everywhere it had been posted to, but here we are showing it again. So, let's see what happens. An unusual episode occurred in Florida. While walking along the beach, a tourist stumbled upon a mermaid's body. She was lying on her back. Her shiny hair looked quite decent, but her body was extremely dry and dehydrated to the point where even her tail was stiff and dried like a fish. What do you think? Could this have been a real mermaid washed ashore, or someone's ironic prank meant to scare tourists? After Hurricane Faye, which hit Florida in 2008, residents came out to the beach to assess the damage, but what they saw among the broken trees left them speechless. Beneath fallen branches lay the body of a mermaid. Either she had been washed ashore by the hurricane, or she had tried to escape the storm herself, but the body was completely dried out in the sun. Even the scaly tail was stiff, and her hands were shriveled. When the video was published, many claimed it was an artificial setup, that the supposed mermaid was a bad joke. But people who recorded the video never came forward on social media, and the mermaid was never seen again, leaving many to wonder. Perhaps in this segment, you'll witness one of the creepiest mermaid encounters. On the shore in the English town of Great Yarmouth, a decomposing body of a mermaid-like creature was discovered. The body had a humanoid skull and a spine that was smoothly transitioning into a tail. It had washed ashore, and it seriously frightened the people who found it. Later witnesses suspected it was a hoax and tried to debunk the mystery, but the skeleton looked so real, and even the smell was quite specific. Most people believed that it was a real mermaid who had died at sea and ended up on the shore. Now we have a video showing a mermaid mummy up close. Her tail remained intact, but the torso was severely damaged, while the skull with sharp teeth looked brand new. What is this strange exhibit? The faded, yellowish-brown body indeed evokes thoughts of mummification, but protruding pieces of the spine suggest that the body suffered fatal injuries, as if a giant shark had taken a bite out of it. You'd be right to think that this horror was purposely made for some mythical installation, Before us is a mannequin created for a museum of mythical creatures in South Africa, and this terrifying sight is meant to professionally frighten visitors. Now it's time for some eerie stories, so brace yourself. Do you really want to see mermaids? The residents of Durban in South Africa were shocked by what they saw on the beach. On the sand lay a mermaid, but not an adult. She was a girl. The sea child had an extremely realistic tail with additional fins on the sides that were still moving. But the girl mermaid never regained consciousness, and people crowded around her. Did you know that there are beaches in Pakistan? As it turns out, there are many, and on one of them, tourists witnessed an amazing scene. An unusual creature had also washed ashore, and the locals called it Jalpari, which means sea maiden in Urdu. The residents surrounded the mermaid and even covered the body with a sheet while she kept flapping her tail, as if trying to return to the ocean. They probably wouldn't have dared to touch her, especially the tourists. In 2021, residents in Sri Lanka gathered on a beach at night because apparently someone had spotted a mermaid washed up by the waves. She was lying on the sand on her stomach, barely moving, obviously badly injured. But when one of the witnesses tried to check if she was alive and cautiously poked her with a stick, to their surprise, the mermaid shuddered and hissed in response. She had been brought ashore, tangled in the garbage that had polluted the ocean to the extreme, but she wouldn't have been able to survive on land in that condition. Sadly, the residents could only watch as she slowly drifted off to sleep in the sand. And now, prepare for a horrible scene. This video, shot in 2012, shocked people to the core. Two friends were exploring the beach at dusk. They wanted to examine bodies of marine animals washed ashore. One boy noticed some movement in the sand and came closer, even poking the unknown body with a stick. In the blink of an eye, a hideous creature jumped out of the sand and grabbed the boy with a scream. Apparently, the grip wasn't strong enough, as both boys ran off in a panic. I'd be more confident in saying that this was a scene from a horror movie rather than reality. And now, let's turn to the living. This underwater video from Lake Michigan quickly went viral. People shared skeptical comments about the reality of this mermaid. If it's the first high-quality video with a clear image, over time, it becomes obvious that it's an artistic imitation. However, while this isn't a real mermaid, but merely a simulation, many appreciated the style of swimming of how the girl managed to accurately replicate the movement of a mermaid. Admit it, it's not easy to behave so freely underwater. In northern Michigan, tourists were boating on an inflatable boat down the river. Imagine their surprise when they saw a real mermaid, who first basked in the sun and then dove into the water. She was clearly visible in the transparent waves. Since they captured it on camera, now any of us can assess how mythical this creature really is. Yes, the conclusion is obvious. No matter how realistic she looked, this wasn't a real mermaid, but a phantom. A professional actress who calls herself the Traveling Mermaid often hangs out at lakes and rivers in Michigan, showing off her bright silicone tail. In this video, yet another mermaid is swimming somewhere in Michigan. She was spotted by children who called their parents. The mermaid wasn't bothered by anyone's presence. She calmly swam as if going about her usual business. Of course, the children initially thought the mermaid was real, and I must say, it wasn't for no reason. She had been often seen in various lakes and bodies of water around Michigan. But by now, you've probably guessed that we're once again seeing the tricks of the phantom, the same woman who loves dressing up as a mermaid and provoking those around her. Well, if she enjoys doing it so kids can still believe in magic, maybe it's her calling. Look, a real blonde mermaid is resting peacefully on a shallow bay near the shore. Her tail and fins are perfectly visible, and it seems that she's unaware of the filming. Or perhaps she's skillfully pretending. You might really think that this is a real mermaid who magically appeared and then mysteriously disappeared under the water. But this character has a name. The girl named Melissa is a popular internet actress who dresses up as a mermaid to entertain people. Apparently, she's reached a high level of professionalism, as we almost believed that she was real. This following photo was sent by our subscribers to the email address listed in the description. It was titled "Mermaid in the USA." On the beach lies a creature with both human and fish-like features, suggesting the discovery of a mermaid's body. Some cables are connected to the body, possibly indicating an experiment is taking place. Yes, you may not believe in all the footage shown, but that's why we created the channel, to discuss and showcase the most incredible things. And if you have something you'd like to share, feel free to email us at the address provided in the description. A family swimming in a local lake was baffled when they saw a mermaid diving nearby. She didn't mind being seen and continued swimming vigorously even as people began filming her. The phenomenon looks quite plausible, but unfortunately this wasn't a real mermaid, but a woman who had come to the lake with her parents for a rest. She had simply bought a mermaid tail and wanted to try it out while swimming. Of course, she didn't expect so many witnesses, so maybe she managed to feel like a true heroine of myth. A man launched a drone over the Pacific Ocean, but what he captured left him perplexed. In the middle of the ocean, he saw a mermaid, or at least a creature resembling one. She seemed to notice the drone, but the video cuts off at that moment. Before drawing to conclusions, let's rewind. Take note, she clearly has legs, and this is definitely not a mermaid. But now, I don't know what this woman was doing so far from the shore. Could she have been bravely testing a mermaid tail all alone in the open ocean? Be mindful of hoaxes and don't believe random sources. Thanks for sticking with us. It's a great time to like this video and subscribe to the TopFacts channel, the laboratory of incredible selections of facts and videos from across the internet.